Rather than focus on just one song, this lesson is going to help you play a wide variety of songs. And that's because our topic is rhythmic styles or patterns. We'll start by reviewing the basic chords and fingerings we've been using in the course up to now. Then I'll show you how to use the same chords with occasionally one or two others added to play the songs you see on these lists. In other words, we'll set those chords into motion using an assortment of rhythmic feels or grooves perfect for ballads, up-tempo songs, and so forth. I'll even tell you where to get free lead sheets for your favorite songs, transposed to your key and ready to print out. We played Michael Rowe and the Blues Shuffle in the key or scale of C. We used the 1 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. Now, as you know, if we play the chords in root position only, as I'm doing here, we'll end up with big leaps when we travel between the C and F chords or C and G chords. But if we invert the C chord like this and invert the F chord like this, we have this smooth connection. The G chord connects smoothly like that, or this to the F chord. With the left hand, we played the roots of the chords. So here are the basic materials we've been using. Now, in this lesson, we're also occasionally going to add the 6th chord built on the 6th note of the C scale. This is a minor chord because its 3rd is lowered a half step from what you'd find in a major chord. In sheet music, which we'll be talking about in a moment, you'll find these chord symbols. Now, it's easy to connect the A chord to both the C chord and the F chord, because as you can see, the A chord has 2 notes in common with each of them. Do you know about wikiphonia.org? It's a site where you can download and print out the lead sheets for thousands of songs. It's free, it's legal, and it has many of the songs we're going to talk about in this lesson. Wikiphonia will even transpose songs into your key, and we'll talk more about transposing in just a moment. Another approach is to find the chord sequence by ear. Just sing the melody and play different chord combinations to see what sounds best. And that's not as hard as you might think, because remember, the songs we're looking at in this lesson stick mostly to the 1, the 4, and the 5. Another important clue is that songs usually begin and end with the 1 chord. Finding just the right key for a particular song, one that's not too high or too low for your voice, will take some experimenting. Of course, if transposition is a mystery to you, you can go the easy route and stick to the key of C. And to simplify matters, that's what I'll be doing as I demo these styles. I talk in another video about how to transpose or change keys using a number system. And as I mentioned, Wikiphonia has an automatic transpose feature right on their site. It asks how many half steps higher or lower you want to go. Now we get into the fun part. As we begin each new style, I'll make this step easy for you by listing some songs that work well with that particular feel or groove, as I'm doing here for our first style. So far in my course, you've learned to accompany a ballad in a very basic way, like this. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never... So the right hand is playing a chord on each beat, while the left hand holds down the root of each chord. Now here's something you could do to make that more interesting. Your right hand plays the same notes as before. Well, it rocks back and forth between the upper two notes and the lowest one. Take a look at my wrist. It drops down as I play the upper two notes and rises as I play the lower one. I'm also using a little bit of what we call rotation, which is this motion sort of like screwing in a light bulb. The point is, instead of asking your fingers to do all the work, take advantage of the larger muscles in your arm. You'll get more control, better rhythm, and less fatigue. And you can give the bass line a little more personality this way. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So here's Auld Lang Syne all the way through. Notice that I'm adding a 6th chord. That's this A chord, though you could do the song without that, with just 3 chords. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of auld lang syne? And here's a hint about Hey Jude and Imagine, which are both on that list you just saw. Now, at a certain point, both songs use a descending bass line on the 4 chord, like this. Or, using the techniques that we looked at just prior, it would sound like this. Now, if you're playing something that needs more of a rock feel, you'll want to accent beats 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the easiest way to do that is to raise your wrist a little higher than you normally would before each of those accented chords, so you can drop more weight into the keys. Think of this style as pa, pa, pa. Notice how the bass alternates between 2 tones, the root of the chord and the 5th of the chord. Or you can think of it as going down a 4th or up a 5th, because down a 4th and up a 5th take you to the same note. So here's how you might accompany the chorus of Cielito Lindo or Silver Bells, because they both use the same chord progression. Don't worry if I'm playing this too fast for you to see what's going on. I'll play it in slow motion in just a moment. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. And here it is again in slow motion as a series of still photos so you can see more clearly what notes to play with each hand. Another song in this style is Piano Man, which, like Hey Jude and Imagine, involves a descending bass line like this. And so forth. You can find it on Wikiphonia also. Amazing Grace is also in 3/4 time and sounds better when the right hand plays on the first beat instead of just on 2 and 3. So that would be like this. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Now, Amazing Grace sounds even better when you add a shuffle feel, and we'll get to that in part 2, but here it is as a little preview. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. So as I play another waltz shuffle in the background, we bring part 1 of this lesson to a close. You've learned more about accompanying ballads, and now you can also play songs in 3/4 time. I've even showed you where to find free lead sheets ready to print out and transposed to your key. Now, in the second half of this lesson, we'll look at styles that work well with up-tempo songs. As you can see from these lists, we'll be touching on pop music, country, rock, folk, blues, even Broadway. In addition, I'll teach you another ballad style that's completely different from the one in this video. That's it in the background. And if it sounds difficult, don't worry. I'll provide a few different versions from very easy to advanced. See you in part 2.